Hello and welcome to Unnamed Cocktail Show, a cocktail show for people who want to learn how to drink better. On today's Basics episode, we're going to be looking at proof and portions. As I'm sure you're aware, all alcohol is served in standard portioning, which varies based on what type of alcohol it is. If we're looking at beer, it is 12 ounces at 5%. Wine is 5 ounces at 12%. And liquor is 1.5 ounces at 40%. What this means is that if we hold to these proportions, any alcoholic beverage should end up with 0.6 ounces of pure alcohol per drink. Now, this is important when you're bartending for your legal reasons, for ensuring the safety of your patrons. It's important when you're bartending at home for the safety of your guests and friends, and also for the balance of your drinks. So, let's take a look at what these measurements look like. This is a pint glass, which is typically used for beer, and this is a 12-ounce can of seltzer. So, this seltzer is 12 ounces at 5%, which is the standard measurement. It's important to remember, however, that a pint glass holds 16 ounces, so filling it to the brim, it holds 1/3 more alcohol. So, to fit a standard pour into a pint glass, it's important to remember that you should leave about 3/4 of an inch at the top so that you're not overfilling. Another important thing to consider is higher proof beers. Standard percentage for beers is 5%, but with the rise in craft brewing, we're seeing anywhere from 10 to 15% beers frequently on the market. So the important things to remember with the beer is that a pint glass does not hold the same amount as your 12-ounce can, and that the ABV of the beer needs to be taken into consideration. Now, if we're looking at wine, 5 ounces should fill this carafe up to my line, but I'm going to measure it out so that you can see. So, with 5 ounces in your carafe, it's important to remember the difference in wine glass styles. A white wine glass and a red wine glass can look like they're filled to different levels due to the shape of the glass. It's important to remember that the perception of the amount of alcohol can easily be changed by the design of the glassware that you're using. So, these both hold standard pours of wine, but the difference is a red wine glass versus a white wine glass. These differences in perception become increasingly apparent when we look at how 1.5 ounces of liquor looks in a variety of different cocktail glasses. These are all old-fashioned or rocks glasses, but they're obviously all different sizes and styles. So, when I pour a standard shot into each of these glasses, as you can see, they all look like they're holding different amounts due to the size and style of the glasses. However, each is holding only 1.5 ounces of liquid. This is important when thinking about your cocktails because you want to keep the balance in mind as well as how the drink presents. You want to make sure that the drink first tastes good and second, presents well and seems generous. This is different in a rocks glass because typically you will be including ice with the drinks, and also it's not uncommon for a rocks glass to be used for smaller volume drinks overall. A typical rocks glass will not be filled all the way to the top, but will leave room for your drink to breathe so you can smell and get aromas coming off of the cocktail. For shaken drinks or drinks that go into stemware, you typically want to be within 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of the top of the glass. But obviously, looking at these rocks glasses, our perception of how much liquid is in them changes due to a variety of circumstances, including the thickness of the glass, thickness of the base, and the mouth size of the glass. If we compare rocks glass to, say, a snifter, the snifter looks even less full. This is because snifters are typically used for extremely fragrant drinks and liquids, such as brandy, port, etc. So right now, all of these hold the same volume of liquid. but the perception is clearly different. If we swap out and look at traditional stemware, the perceptions change again. So, if we look at 1.5 ounces in a coupe versus this new style of martini glass versus a traditional martini glass, you can see how they seem to be holding extremely different amounts. Again, this is one of my frustrations with the traditional martini glass. It holds so much more liquid than it should. There's so much space left to fill in this glass, especially because the design allows for exponential increase. If we look back at the snifter again, we can see that it seems to be much less full than the rest of these, except for maybe the martini glass. So again, knowing this is important for the proportions of your drink. It's important for knowing how much alcohol you're consuming, or how much alcohol your guests are consuming. And then, of course, it's important for the presentation and balance of your drink as well. So for most of this conversation, we've been talking about alcohol in terms of percentages. Percentage is the same as ABV, which stands for alcohol by volume. ABV is the standard way to measure the amount of alcohol that goes into a drink. If we want to get scientific about it, ABV is the number of milliliters of pure ethanol in 100 milliliters of liquid at 20 degrees Celsius. Now, sometimes you look at a bottle like this and you'll see that it says 40% alcohol by volume, and then, now this is happening less and less now, but at times you will see it also say 80 proof on it. So, what's the difference between proof and ABV, or percentage? Simply put, proof is 2 times the ABV. So if I have a liquor that's 35% ABV, it is 70 proof. The term proof stems from a burn or no burn test that was done in England in the 16th century to determine the alcohol content of a spirit. If the alcohol ignited, it was said to be above proof, and if it didn't, it was said to be under proof. Thanks to advances in science, we are able to measure the alcohol content much more clearly, so proof is a fairly antiquated method at this point. So while it may seem illogical or counterintuitive, each and every one of these glasses, when filled with their respective alcohol, would have 0.6 ounces of pure alcohol in them, meaning that each of these is holding one standard drink. Whether it's 5 ounces of 12% wine, 1.5 ounces of 40% liquor, or 12 ounces of 5% beer, the actual amount of alcohol is the same across the board. This is good to know if someone's switching back and forth between wine, beer, and liquor, just to have a standard concept of the drinks they consumed. Alright, that's it for this week's episode of UCS Basics. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you learned some helpful information, and we hope to see you back here soon.